All right, in this episode, we're going to be talking about the mother wound. I know that's a sore subject, and I have a feeling that some or many of you are really not going to resonate positively with this episode. It's about making peace with the parents. It's about healing the mother wound within, figuring out a way to get back to who you were before you got stuck emotionally needing their approval. We have to get to the point where their opinion of us no longer matters to us. And once we get to that point, we are free to make choices instead of living as a reaction. If you want to get in touch with me, go to joeryan.com. There were some technical glitches in this. The ending got cut off, and somewhere in the middle, the mic got stuck and just kept recording right over on top. Anyway, there was a gap. I cut it out. I edited the best I could. All right, here we go. The mother wound. How baffling it is. This is the key. This is the thing that unlocks the door. This is freedom. We have to work through it, whether we want to or not. There's no way around it. It's just insanity. You know, the bottom line is we need them. We want them. We want them to be there for us in every way possible. It is the fairy tale. It is the way it was drawn up, especially in this society, in America. We are so full of shit. And we create these images that are impossible for people to live up to. And nothing is more damaging than to mothers. Like, it's an unrealistic expectation that they need to live up to. And the amount of shame they carry is unreal. You have to be perfect. And the pressure to be perfect is daunting, and it leaves no space for anything else. And when you are a helpless, needy child, and you want this person to be available to you, they are too fucking occupied with keeping up with the appearances. There's no space. There's no space left for you. You didn't do anything wrong. It's not that you're not lovable, that you're not good enough, that you're too much, that you're not enough. It's none of the shit that we tell ourselves. See, we're so absorbed in the fact that we didn't get our needs met. We're so afraid of being needy. We don't get to see people objectively because we're in this hurt, scared place. We're like frightened children living in a closet somewhere. Just like sliding that door open and peeking out. Is it safe to come out now? Is the environment safe enough for me to enter? Is everybody regulated? Do people in this house have enough space within them where they could handle me right now? And it's just two opposite worlds, and it's joining it together. Like, I could never see my parents objectively because I was coming from this place of fear and lacking and hurt. And I had no empathy or love or compassion for myself. Then how could I possibly have any for anybody else? It was like, I am not fucking giving an inch until I get something. And even when I got something, it was never enough. It was constantly like, prove that this is for me and not to keep, not for you, not for the image that you need to keep portraying. And it's not your fault that you've been trying to portray this forever. It's society. It's put on you. You just didn't have this self-awareness to realize that it was wrong. That it's always been wrong. That it's never about the appearances. It is about heart and soul. And it is about connection. Like, this is where we miss it. We're too fucking concerned with how it looks instead of how it feels. And I had a mother that came from a place that was hard, man. She did not have an easy life. And she grew up with two shame-filled parents that were struggling every day to create an appearance that wasn't real. It wasn't genuine. It wasn't authentic. but they spent their life trying to portray it, and they gave that to their kids. And then their kids carried it, and they had to carry the image. And that is exhausting, and it is overwhelming. And it leaves no fucking room for empathy, love, compassion, for being wrong. It is about being perfect. This image. And it's just daunting and exhausting. My mother had a hard life, man. And I give her credit now because she put on the mask and she wore it the best she could. And I know she hurts deep down and she craves love and attention and she needs it because she doesn't have that self-worth. Everything that I struggle with, she struggles with. But you look at your parents as gods, that they have all the answers. They hold the key to ice cream and amusement parks and vacations. They are the gatekeepers to happiness. And we don't feel like we can outgrow them. We don't feel like we can surpass them. And this is where we're stuck emotionally. We are not budging. We are not moving in any direction because we still need their approval so that we feel okay. We don't have our own identity. We don't have our own self-worth. We are bound to this mother wound. And we're resentful that we need her love, attention, and affection. And she can't give it to us in the ways that we need it. So we have to figure out how to give it to ourselves and stop blaming them. I mean, my grandparents were immigrants from Italy. My grandfather came over here when he was like 11 or 12 with no family. This guy grew up in the streets of Lower Manhattan, man. He was blue-collar laborer. The guy could not read or write. The only word that he could read in English was Cordero, because that was his favorite jockey. He was a degenerate gambler. That was it. He knew how to sign his name, and he knew his favorite jockey. And he got married, and he raised 3 kids. They lived in a 3-room apartment in Jackson Heights. Not a 3-bedroom, a 3-room. My mother, my aunt, and my uncle slept in a pull-out couch until they got married and left. Could you imagine being a teenager and living on the pull-out couch in a living room? And I tried to figure out why my mother had no boundaries. The woman never had privacy. She never had space to herself. She was always on guard. She was always performing. She always had to look good. And she put that in me because she knew no other way. And I resent the shit out of her for doing that. And I resent the fact that I needed her love and her approval. But I wouldn't give an inch because I was so pissed off because she never saw me. But nobody ever saw her. Nobody saw her wounds. Nobody saw her hurt. It was like, shut the fuck up and put on a good face. And you fucking pretend that we got our shit together and we're not struggling. And she handed that down to me. And I carried that for a while, but I got too tired, man. Couldn't do it anymore. You know, part of this whole thing that I do is just trying to find the realness in me. Trying to wean myself off of the external bullshit of how it looks, man. I am fucking broke and alone. I live in a shitty apartment and I'm on fucking welfare. And I've never been fucking happier with myself. And man, that is a major fucking achievement. Because I was the guy that needed the house and the money and the vacations and the status because I felt like a worthless piece of shit. And so did my mother. She felt horrible about herself and she did what she was taught. That you put on a good face, that you fucking pretend, that we don't go into sadness, we don't go into hurt, we don't go into pain. We will talk about everybody behind their back, we will backstab like everybody else in this fucking family does, but we'll never be real with anybody. So this whole process is about becoming real. Who the fuck am I without the bullshit that's wrapped around me? Who am I without the money, without the marriage, without the kids, without the family? Who am I? Strip myself down to nothing and figure out what I was made of. Because all I was a needy, codependent motherfucker because I never got my needs met. Because my mother never got her needs met and her mother never got her needs met. Like, this shit has to stop somewhere. And it stops with me, and I fucked up my kids. We're all going to fuck up our kids somehow, some way, even with the best intentions. My mother did better than her mother. I know it's the same story, and I did better than mine did. But it's never enough. We can't anticipate and figure out what our kids' needs are. And our parents can't figure out what our needs are. But the thing is, we grew up in environments where it wasn't okay to voice them, to ask for, to discuss them. Because it doesn't look perfect. It doesn't look polished. It takes every ounce of energy that I have in my fucking body to portray this image. I cannot go into this hurt. I'm afraid to go into it. Because if I start tapping that pain, I'm afraid I'm not going to get out of it. That it is going to drag me down to the point where I can't fucking function. So I'm in delusion and denial, and I just push this shit off. And I try to stay 10 steps ahead of it. But there's no joy in that, man. There's no joy in the image. There's no joy in the mask. You know, it's just a temporary fix. But underneath it is the neediness, the sadness, the loneliness. It's the lack of connection and our fear to connect. Because it's that vulnerability. It's hard to go to those places. But the key is now and always has been the mother wound. We have to start looking at ourselves with understanding and compassion so that we could start looking at our mothers the same way instead of from this hurt, neglected place. And I know that that is not easy, and that takes a lot of work and a lot of effort. And I'm sure you're up in your head right now going, well, why the fuck do I have to do all this work if she fucked me up? Well, do you want to be happy or do you want to be right? You want to be happy. You have to start with you. They are never going to change unless you change. When I was about 17, I walked away from my mother and father. And after months of them hounding me and trying to get me back, I sat down and I had a conversation. When my mother walked into that room, the first words out of her mouth was, I am never going to fucking apologize for anything that's ever happened. And I was like, well, we got no place to go then. And fast forward a couple of decades and I leave them again. Only this time I wasn't looking for anything from them. See, back then I needed something. I wanted something. I wasn't willing to do the work. It was like, you're going to fucking show up for me and you're going to show me my worth and value so I can finally feel good about myself. This time it was, I need to take a step back and remove myself from everything that I need. Because my neediness is killing me. It's my addiction. It is my pain. It is my heroin. Your approval was like heroin. And I could not figure out a way to make you happy and me happy at the same fucking time. So let me go in peace and go through my hurt and go through my pain and figure out how to be happy without needing your love and your approval. And I did that, and I sacrificed a ton. Do you know how many holidays I have missed with my children because of this? Not being able to be in the same room with my family, not wanting my kids to take sides, for them to make their own choices. And they made the right choices. Do I want to sit home alone with dad in his shitty little apartment and his broken fucking life? Or do I want to go and gravitate towards people who are pretending to be happy? I would have made the same choice, and I'm glad they made it. But fuck, man, do you know how much I sacrificed? Do you know how much I missed out? I have not spent a Christmas day with my children in 6 fucking years. I sit alone in my hurt and in my pain and the sacrifices that I am making, the things that I have missed out on, is for me to not have to need their approval to feel good about myself. And that's where we want to get to. And when you get to that point, if you make that choice to go back to your family, you can see it differently. I can see how broken my parents are now. I can see their hurt. I can see their pain. I can see how they did things and why they did it. They didn't know any better. I needed to be taken care of. I needed to be loved. I needed to be valued. I needed a place to put my pain and my hurt. And that they were not open for business for that shit, because they've spent a lifetime avoiding their own. That if I show up and I'm in hurt and I'm in pain, they never had to deal with it in their own. They didn't know how to do that. They didn't have the capability to deal with me. And how do I internalize as a child? Like, well, I'm useless. I'm worthless. I have no worth and value. I am worth less than their time. They could be fucking bothered. It was like, get the fuck out of this house. Go entertain yourself so I don't have to fucking deal with you, because it's way too much. Because I can't deal with what's going on with me internally. We have to make these sacrifices. We have to go through the hurt, and we have to go through the pain, and we have to figure out who the fuck we are without them. So that we're not obligated, we're not enmeshed, we don't have this need to take care of. And part of me leaving them for this amount of time was to protect them. Because I knew, and I knew at an early fucking age, even if it wasn't intellectually, that they couldn't handle this. And I had to protect them from my hurt and my pain, because they would have internalized it, and they couldn't internalize it, so they came at me with anger and rage and fear and shaming. And it wasn't about me, it was about their capacity to handle emotions. They had none. It took every ounce of energy to get through the fucking day, not to lose their minds from where they came from. Here's needy old Joe going, hey, pain. And they're like, sorry, we're all filled up here. You're going to go have to find it someplace else. So I found it other places. I found it in pills. I found it in sex. I found it in alcohol. I found it in substance. I found it in people. I found it in any other place that I could, because I couldn't go home with it. And leaving them was partly to protect them, but it was also, I know I can't go to this well because that fucker's dry. So you need to go find another well and another supply. And it can't be outside of you. It has to be within us. The mother wound only gets healed through you. It doesn't get healed through her. She is not going to change. She doesn't have the capability. If she had the capability, she would have did it. She wants to. There is a part of her that really fucking wants to love you and give you everything you got. Everything that you need, but she's just not capable because of where she fucking came from. And if we're going to continue to take this stance of, fuck you, I ain't moving off of this spot until you give me what I've always needed and what I fucking deserve, you're never going to heal. You're never going to get anywhere. It doesn't work that way, because I can guarantee you she could turn into everything that you've absolutely fucking needed, and you're going to resent her because you're going to look at it and go, oh, now you need me. Now you need me to love you. Now, where the fuck were you when I needed you? So no matter what she gives, no matter how much she changes, you're still going to be fucking angry. Unless you start to heal yourself. It is not through her. She does not own the keys anymore to the kingdom, to freedom, to joy, to happiness. She just doesn't. It's all within you. And unless you make peace with yourself, unless you do the work, it is never going to change. You are in this standoff, and she doesn't know what to do. You are more emotionally intelligent. You have more capacity. She doesn't. So you have to start forgiving yourself. You have to start healing yourself. You have to start getting yourself into a place where you realize that the thing that's been holding you back is that you need her love. But you resent it because you don't want to give it because she didn't give it to you when you needed it. Now she needs it and you're like, fuck you. Not giving it now. How's that working out for you, man? You're in a bind. You want her. You need her. You love her. That little kid inside of you, that little boy, girl who was like frightened in the fucking corner and just was so overwhelmed with fear. That's where you're coming from. You have to heal that kid in you. You have to go back and love that kid. You have to get to a place where you feel good enough about yourself where their opinion of you doesn't matter. You can want it. You got to get to a point where you want it and not need it. And no matter what she does, no matter how she acts, no matter if she turns into the person you want her to be, it's not going to heal you. It is no longer outside of you. It is all within you. You have the answers. It's all within you. You control the keys to the kingdom now. The problem is we're coming from this hurt, scared little child, this emotionally fucking beat and battered and neglected and used and abused child. And unless you go back and rescue that kid, the rest of your life, all your relationships, bosses, friends, family, loved ones, intimate relationships will always hit a certain point. And you're never going to get fucking past it. Because you're living your life from an infant, from a child, from a toddler. You got stuck there emotionally. And you still think, and I thought the keys to the kingdom was, I need my mother to turn into who she is. I need her to be there for me. Nobody was there for her. She didn't know how to be there for herself. How could she be there for us? You have to do the work. You have to learn how to be there for you. And then you can choose if you want them in your life and how you want them in their life. Everything goes through this gateway. You have to find a way within you to make peace with what had happened so that you can move past. You're the adult now. She is the child. But you have to get in there and raise your emotional child. You have to get in there and discipline that kid. And you have to show him and her to not live from this place of hurt and fear and neglect and abandonment. And you have to fill those holes within yourself. Nobody is going to do it for you. And your life is not going to change that much for the better with whatever you think you're going to wrap yourself around to make it look pretty on the outside. This is all fucking inner work. I have nothing. I am bare minimum. I barely make my fucking rent. And I've never felt better. That's this whole process, is becoming okay with who you are and where you're at, and not sitting here being jealous and envious and angry and resentful because people have fucking more than I do. That they didn't have to have the struggles that I did to get through the fucking day. To actually hate people because their life was fucking easy. You got to get to the point where there's an acceptance of, this is who I am, these are my limitations, and I'm good enough. And when you can get to that point, you can go look at your parents with the same eyes. But when you're looking at the world through hate and envy and anger and resentment, you're never going to learn how to love yourself. You're never going to learn how to repair the bridges. They're fucking humans. They are douchebags like everybody else walking the planet. They are nothing fucking special. And you got to get to that point where you see them just like anybody else. You have to take their power away. You have to start seeing them as human. You have to start seeing yourself as human before any of us can heal. This is the wall. That's that invisible barrier. How many times have you come up against it and you're like, well, if I step over this line, if I pass this barrier, my life is going to change and I have no more control over it because now I'm out there in the world. So let me self-sabotage so I can get back behind this protective barrier. In my opinion, it all goes through the mother wound. And you have to figure out a way to fucking heal it, resolve it, somehow make peace with it. They're not these gods who had all the fucking answers. They're just two assholes who got together because they were fucking needy and shame-based, and somehow they filled a hole in each other. And after a couple of years, they realized that, oh shit, I made a huge mistake, but, it's the generation and nobody gets divorced, so let's figure out a way to make this fucking work. And then you have to grow up in that environment. This had nothing to do with us. Just like what happened to them had nothing to do with them. I get to now go back with what I know and all the work that I've done, and I can see my mother as this hurt, scared little child who's trying to figure out how to be fucking loved in this cold world. And now with what I've gained and the knowledge and the work that I've done, I can go and actually do by choice what I tried to do as a child unconsciously was to make her okay. I needed her to be okay so that I could live. She controlled the joy, the anger, the rage, the happiness, the sadness, the spontaneity. She controlled it all. So you want to make her okay so that you feel free enough to be you. That's what we did. That's what I did as a kid. I'm sure that's what most of you did. But now I can do this as a choice. I see a hurt, damaged, broken woman who fucking had a hard life. It wasn't easy. She would tell me stories about my grandfather. I'm like, I can't see it. I love the guy. He's like, oh my God. And I must say the same thing to my kids. They was like, I don't see it. They're just beautiful, sweet, loving, caring. Yeah, well, you should have started fucking 30 years ago when they were in their rage and their alcoholism. Like, it wasn't fun. But she's a hurt woman. And now I'm at a point where I am healed enough where I can actually go and kind of fulfill that childhood fantasy of having a mother who has abundance, that feels okay. That starts to learn to love and like and love herself and her accomplishments instead of living from this place of lacking and shame. I could build that. I can help heal that if she wants it. But it's not that desperate need and desire anymore. It's more of a want out of love and compassion and understanding. You see, I'm not lacking. I have an abundance. Now I want to give this shit away. It used to be like, no, I need. I can't give anything away because there's very little in here. I have no supply. So I can't give any of my love and care and empathy and compassion away in any kind of great numbers because there's nothing in here. But now there is. And then you're going to get what you want. That relationship with your source figure. The dream, the fantasy, the way the fucking society sets it up, how they're supposed to be all of this and all that's all bullshit. You have to see them as the hurt, broken, damaged people they are. The way we feel and the way in our bodies that we have become, they are feeling the same thing. They just had this amazing ability to just cut it off and be in dissociation, delusion, and denial for I don't know how you can live there that way for so long and not want to, just break down and go, fuck, I'm just done and tired. I can't do it anymore. It all goes through you first, but this is the pathway to freedom. If I can somehow reconcile and heal this relationship with my mother, there's a freedom that I'm starting to feel within my body. I can see this woman in a way where I want to give love freely, knowing that I'm not going to get back what I want and what I need in the ways that I want them. And it's okay. It has nothing to do with me anymore. It's not that I'm not good enough. She's just not capable. It's that fucking simple. When you break it down, that's what it comes down to. And I just feel really grateful that I've done this work and, have had all of you along for the ride as I'm doing it. that I've gotten to a place where I'm not this needy, selfish, scared, prick of being an asshole, not giving until I get. And now I get to give all the love that I've been holding back for decades, slowly, because it's still difficult to go back to that vulnerability. But she needs me, and I need her. And it's the same. Whoever your mother is and whoever you are now, she needs you and you need her. And the sooner you get to that fucking realization and try to figure out how to get there so that you can walk whatever time you have left, that you can walk together in harmony, your life is just going to be better. It's not about what you're not giving her, what you're not getting. You need each other. And if you can heal this relationship, I can guarantee you the rest of your relationships will benefit from it. The keys to the kingdom are through the mother wound. But I had to be humble and humiliate myself and realize that I was a dick. That I dug my heels in and I was going to be a big fuck you. And that rebellion, the thing about rebellion is you're just as tied to the person emotionally as if you give in to them and you conform to what they want. If she said dress nice and be respectful, I had long hair and I was an alcoholic and an addict. It was like, fuck you. I'm going to be the opposite of what you need to be. You need me to be, and you're going to love me for this. End of story. I didn't really want to choose the addict life. It wasn't a choice. It was just a way of not being controlled and not taken over. And in the end, all it really did was hurt myself. It was like punishing myself. Just not to give her what she needed. I went to the extremes of living this life that was anything but healthy and safe. In the end, it was just to prove to her that I didn't need her love, but I always did. And so do you. So figure out a way to get back. Thanks for listening. You can contact me at joeryan.com. Follow me on Instagram at joeryan. And if you want, you can leave us a review on iTunes. That'd be great. All right, take care.